Hello and welcome. This is Market Wrap. I'm Agam Vakil. We've seen the Nifty register the third straight day of losses, and with that, it moves below crucial levels. At this point in time, we're seeing the Nifty lose out on the 10,800 marker with severe weakness in OMCs. That's the oil and gas space, as well as Eicher Motors, and a handful of other stocks as well, including something like heavyweights like State Bank of India and Larsen and Toubro. Even if you consider the broader markets, at least as far as the Nifty 500 is concerned, we've had two gainers for three losers. And while we did see some revival in stocks such as Dilip Bilkon, Adani Power, and Indian Bank, along with General Insurance Corp, we've seen considerable weakness in CG Power, Indocount Industries, HEG, Jindal Stainless Steel, and we will be talking about a handful of stocks, a handful of these stocks in today's day of trade. But on that note, I'm going to get in our market editor Neeraj Shah to give in his thoughts. So Neeraj, again now this is something that's been a continuation. But what are your thoughts today?
No, I mean just two or three observations. One is it'll be interesting to see what the volumes are in today's session. The FI volumes are in today's session. The market breadth worsened in the last half an hour, 45 minutes of trade. Until then, it was okay. Yeah. I think it really worsened in the last half an hour, 45 minutes of trade. And PSUs, without exception, today fell. So you mentioned those OMCs. OMCs were down. GAIL, ONGC were down. SBI was down. But 8 or 7 of the top 10 losers were all PSU names. So there was some inherent weakness there. And I think banks have started looking weak. We were all talking about how there's this whole move towards corporate-facing banks. Yeah. The last 1 month, stocks like SBI, stocks like ICICI Bank, etc., have fallen 10-11%. And these are the companies which have, by and large, delivered on the numbers. So there's some pullback or some money coming off as well. Question marks were being asked about how much capital can these guys attract after what they've already done, Axis, ICICI, SBI. You have the answer. The last 1 month, there's some serious capital outflow that has happened from these names as well. So weakness inherent today continues, as you said, 4 straight days of, I don't remember the last time we had 4 straight falls in a really long time now. So weakness persistent. Let's see how long does it last.
You did mention the FII bit, and at least over the last 2 sessions, after the first 6 days of February saw inflows, again we've seen a little bit of reversal coming through. And again, that's going to be another critical factor. True. But Neeraj, thanks for that perspective there. But moving on, let's talk about 2 important stocks today. First one is CG Power, and I want to pull up the chart here. CG Power, as you can see, has declined by as much as 30% in today's day of trade, and we have Yatin Mota who's joining us to give us an update on what's really gone wrong. Yatin, what's up with CG Power?
A couple of things, Agam, and talking about the earnings and the footnotes which indicate that the company has written off over 100 crores of receivables from the debtors or customers. Also, there was adjustment regarding the promoter dues. So, promoter had to pay, a sum of nearly 760 crores. That was the group receivable, which now stands at 270 crores. The adjustment here was that the promoters, instead of taking royalty every year, they have derived a net present value of the future royalties and deducted that sum from group receivables. Right. So the cash is not really coming into the company. Probably the promoter has got rid of his liabilities at the cost of minority shareholders. Yeah. So that is something that the market would not like, and that is why this was the kind of stock fall. More importantly, on the conference call, management said that they are concerned about the pledged shares of the promoter group. 100% of promoter shareholding is pledged, and given the fact that today's fall was over 30% or so, this really would mean that if the promoter is not able to service any debt obligations, lenders might sell shares at the end of the day. Right. And probably, I think that is the reason why, because of all of these factors, the stock saw such a sharp fall.
Okay, Yatin, thank you for getting us those details. When, as you can see, any company in today's market which is under some sort of pressure with respect to shares which are pledged is getting battered, and quite heavily too, punished quite severely. CG Power is just one more example in times of today. But moving on to Bata India, this is one company which has actually done well in today's day of trade, and it has actually landed ended up with gains of as much as nearly 7%, and this is largely on account of the earnings which came through with both top line and the bottom line ahead of street expectations. A significant expansion in EBITDA margins as well, coming in at around 21% against expectations of about 16.5%. And this, of course, is on the back of festive seasons, but also the product change and the product line that the company has seen. Well, that has actually improved the product mix and hence the margins, as well as the improving operating leverage, which is another fillip that has meant very well and been as a tailwind for the profitability of the company. Thereby, you see more buying into Bata India as well. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Wrap. I've lost my lined up. Stay tuned to Bloomberg.